We are the Guinea Pig Collective. All will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
Searching for old treasures, blowing off the dust. Timeless stories and legendary characters. This is Talking Movies. Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome back to another Talking Movies. So on today's Talking Movies, we will be talking about the Jim Rosebrook, Bob Barbash, Richard H. Landau, and Jerry Day, written and directed by Gary Nelson, 1979's The Black Hole, starring Maximilian Schell as Dr. Hans Reinhardt, Anthony Perkins as Dr. Alex Durant, Robert Forster as Captain Dan Holland, Joseph Bottoms as Lieutenant Charles Pizer, Yvette Mimieux as Dr. Kate McCrae, Ernest Borgnine as Harry Booth, Tom McLaughlin as Captain Starr, Roddy McDowall as Vincent, Gary Nelson as a drone with mask removed, and Slim Pickens as Bob. Now, it is to be noted that Roddy McDowall, Gary Nelson, and Slim Pickens, all three are actually uncredited for this movie. And of course, the story goes as such. So, an Earth exploratory ship, the USS Palomino, discovers a black hole with a lost ship, the USS Cygnus, just outside its event horizon. Deciding to solve the mystery of the Cygnus are the Palomino's captain, Dan Holland, his first officer, Lieutenant Charlie Pizer, journalist Harry Booth, scientist and ESP-sensitive Dr. Kate McCrae, whose father was the Cygnus's first officer, Dr. Alex Durant, the expedition's civilian leader, and the robot known as Vincent. The Palomino attempts a dangerous flyby of the darkened ship. As they come within close range of it, the buffeting they experience due to the black hole's gravity suddenly ceases. They bring more instruments to bear on the derelict, but do not even realize the gravity-free zone is artificial. Slipping outside it, they are almost drawn into the black hole, an abyss from which, of course, no one can ever escape. And matters worsen when Reinhardt holds the crew captive after realizing that they can help him reach his goal. Now, of course, the human cast takes a pretty big role in it. They are actually not the heroes, really, of the film. At least never seemed like it to me. The robot known as Vincent really seems to be the hero of this film. However, if you look at the way Vincent's name is spelled, it is spelled V.I.N.Cent, C-E-N-T. Now, this actually stands for Vital Information Necessary Centralized. STAR, S-T-A-R, the name of the Black Sentry robot, stands for Special Troops Arms Regiment. Now, the name of Old Bob, B-O-B, stands for Biosanitation Battalion. All of this information and this dialogue is actually spoken between Vincent and Old Bob throughout the movie. And the model of the Palomino incorporates a door from an Eagle from Space 1999 from 1975. Obviously kit bash from an Eagles MPC 1/72nd model kit. And the robot Maximilian is so named so because of the actor Maximilian Schell, who plays its master, Dr. Hans Reinhardt. It is, however, very common to see the name misspelled, as originally Maximilian was with two L's. Now, pre-production scripts had it as such, but when Maximilian Schell was added to the cast, the robot name was changed to match his. Now, originally, there were many other actors who were considered for the role of Reinhardt. Among them were Harry Andrews, Peter Cushing, Herbert Loam, Kurt Jurgens, Patrick Troughton, Christopher Lee, Donald Pleasance, Anton Drifting, Hardy Kruger, Max von Sydow, and Jeremy Kemp. Now, here's something you may not have ever heard of. There was a small company called Whitman Publishing Company, formerly Hammer-Rung Whitman Publishing Company, which was acquired by Western Publishing in 1915. Now, Whitman actually created comic books, and they produced a comic book adaptation of the film, which was published in 2 parts as the first 2 issues of an ongoing comic book series. The 3rd and 4th issue, retitled Beyond the Black Hole, continued the adventures of the characters past the events of the film, but was canceled before the storyline was resolved. It seems to happen to a lot of different comics that are actually published on stories, especially movies. They start and then they get canceled before you get any kind of resolution, and well, it is what it is. So the first 3 issues, the first 2-part movie adaptation, and the first Beyond story were packaged and sold in a bag set and are now relatively common to find even on eBay. The 4th issue, however, is very difficult to find and highly collectible, especially if it's in good condition. And one of the things about the movie some people may or may not catch is, as the crew of the Palomino asks how Dr. Reinhardt lived alone for 20 years, Dr. Reinhardt repeats 20 years as if taken aback. He then says 20 Earth years. Perhaps this leads to a scientific theory that gravity affects time. Now, according to the theory, an object or person at the event horizon of a black hole would experience a time dilation or slowing of the passage of time. This would mean that while 20 years had passed on Earth, less time would have passed for Reinhardt and the Cygnus. How much less? Well, that is something that is not really clear. And because Disney is so politically correct, The Black Hole was the first film produced by Disney Studios to be given a PG rating. At the time the film was being made, it was actually considered to be primarily for adults. And since Disney shamelessly likes to plug themselves, the poster of this movie can be seen in Sam Flynn's bedroom in the opening scene of Tron Legacy 2010. And to further talk on that, some of the leftover Century Robot costumes were later used in Steven Lissenberger's test reel for Tron 1982. And Alan Dean Foster, who wrote the novelization of this film, was so appalled by the bad science in the script that he provided a list of changes to the producers which he felt would improve the story. Now, upset by this, the Disney brass actually called a meeting to decide what to do, because just like today, Disney can never decide what to do all on their own. And though I probably shouldn't do it, I can't help but take pot shots at Disney and their PC mentality. So Harlan Ellison was briefly brought on as a scientific consultant on the film. He was fired on his first day, before lunch was even over, because he pitched an animated porno movie starring Disney characters. Now, Roy Edward Disney was sitting at the next table, heard everything, and had Ellison fired on the spot. Ellison insists he was simply joking, but others who were there say he was talking about it sincerely. And even if he was, to silence him because you just don't like something that he said, whether it was in jest or not, that's very PC of you, Disney. And it is to be noted that all the events in this film take place in the year 2130. And the spaceship Cygnus was actually a 12-foot long model weighing 175 pounds. Now, for those of you who don't use our weight and measurement scale, that would be 3.6 meters and 79.3 kilograms. And when practical effects are used, 9 times out of 10, these are the best type of effects. Now, the visual effect of the black hole itself was actually created by forming a whirlpool in a round plexiglass water tank and adding different colors of paint. And it is to be noted that Gary Nelson was not satisfied with the way the model shop made Bob, saying that the robot did not look battered enough. He went to the clay model they were using for reference and hit it several times with a baseball bat. Then they built a new robot based on that model. Anyone says that a little bit of anger can't motivate you to do something, well, you just need to look no further than that. And John Hughes actually created the green grid sequence that appears in the opening titles. It was the longest computer graphics sequence ever to appear in a film at the time. And it is also to be noted that this film and Star Trek from 1979 were the last two Hollywood films to include an overture, once a common feature of major studio releases. Now, this film's overture is usually cut from television broadcast, though it's included in showings on Turner Classic Movies and on its DVD release. And to film the special effects, Disney originally wanted to rent the Dykstraflex camera system, the first computer-controlled camera. Now, this was created for Star Wars from 1977 from Industrial Light and Magic. The price and rental terms were so unacceptable to Disney that they created their own version. The result was Disney's ACES, ACES, or Automated Camera Effects System, which was radically superior to the Dykstraflex system, the matte scan system, which enabled the camera to move on a matte painting and a computer-controlled modeling stand. And Disney actually regarded the quality of the special effects to be so crucial to this movie that it called Peter Ellenshaw out of a 10-year retirement to work on the film. And of course, like we always do, we are going to talk about some of the goofs in this movie. So when Dr. Kate McRae identifies the USS Cygnus in the hologram at the beginning of the movie, she says its mission was to find habitable life, when she actually meant to say habitable planets. In one scene, Vincent mentions the quote, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead," which was coined by Admiral David Farragut during the American Civil War. Bob responds, he also said something about going in harm's way. This quote was not coined by Farragut, but by Captain John Paul Jones during the American Revolution. And in one scene, after Reinhardt orders the Cygnus to fire its thrusters, the ship is seen closer to the black hole, with the center now a glowing bright red. However, when Harry tries to escape by himself on the Palomino, then shot down, the Cygnus appears to be the same distance away from the black hole as it previously was, and the black hole is no longer red. And in this scene, when the crew first opened the Palomino airlock after docking with the Cygnus, Vincent is waiting for them with both his weapons and his head turned towards the Palomino crew. In the following wide shot, his head is facing the crew, but his weapons are facing the Cygnus. When the shot switches back to the crew, he is back in his original orientation. And also, just before Maximilian Holland, Pizer, and Vincer enter the corridor to part storage, we see a group of Sentry robots enter the same corridor. When the camera shot switches, the Sentry robots are nowhere to be seen. At the very start of the movie, when Vincent announces the largest black hole I have ever seen, Mr. Pizer, and Pizer replies, let's look at it on the holograph, the viewer can see someone's hand turning Vincent by his left foot. The hand stays there for a moment before pulling back off camera. There are also a few scenes where you actually see the wires used to move people around in midair. And near the end of the movie, when Cygnus is struck by a passing meteor, Vincent states that a meteorite struck the ship. In fact, unless it enters the Earth's atmosphere, it isn't called a meteorite, it's simply just still called a meteor. Anyway, that aside, once the meteor crashes into the Cygnus, the Palomino crew should have been killed within seconds due to a loss of oxygen. However, they survive for several minutes and are even seen scrambling out into the vacuum of space to board the probe ship without any protective suits. And when the heavy screen is crushing Reinhardt, we can actually see it moving by his breathing. Of course, this would be impossible as the screen should have weighed several hundred pounds. And one other major slip up, not knowing anything about space, Disney really screwed up here on this one. So the Palomino has little if no gravity inside, which is why the crew float in there. Now, once they dock on the Cygnus, which has normal gravity, the Palomino crew should be finding it difficult to walk, as it takes astronauts weeks or even months to acclimate themselves to full gravity after being in a low gravity environment for so long. However, the sharp change in gravity doesn't affect them even in the slightest. A few of the other mistakes that were made is during the robot funeral, only the floor and far wall were built as a physical set. The sloping side walls were a matte painting. At the beginning of the scene, the robot's head at the far lower left disappears under the matte painting, and the end of the scene, when they are filing out of the room, the robot's head at the lower right bobs behind and under the mat several times. And during the dinner sequence, after Reinhardt excuses himself to meet up with the probe ship, the film runs in reverse on an exterior shot of the dining room. You can clearly see Captain Holland walk backwards around the room and sit down. And as the large screen that pins Reinhardt is swinging wildly immediately before it falls, the message it's displaying, well, it's not moving with it. And when this Sentry robot pounces on the captain during the fight to save Kate, the robot does not have his metallic exoskeleton over his legs. He's merely wearing red leggings. In the next shot, his regular robot shell is visible over his legs again. Anyway, guys, that's all I have on this one. Do you remember this movie? Have you seen this movie? Are you planning on watching this movie? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And of course, as always, I am so appreciative that you decide to spend time here on the channel. And if you enjoyed what you've seen and what you heard, go ahead and destroy that like button for me. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. I hope that you've had a good time. Maybe you'll check out some of my other content, and if you like what you see and what you've heard, that you will consider subscribing to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, guys, I will catch you all next time. Later, y'all.